So, our next speaker is going to share with us how holding things in can really affect our whole body. And so excited to talk to her. She's an author and has a movie coming out, and just so many things that she herself has manifested in her life. So, let's find out more.
Building spirituality, family, health, and business. This is the Giant Builders with Lois Wyant.
Hi, Giant Builders. Welcome. We have a wonderful guest today. This is Kristine Genevese. Hi, Kristine. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great today, Lois. How are you?
I am doing great too. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Absolutely. I am a spiritual gangster, really. With that last name, I got to start with that, right? But I actually wrote a book called Healing Through Soul Intelligence, and I have a method called the Soul Intelligence Method that helps people heal completely and holistically. So I work with a lot of functional and integrated medicine doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, anybody that's really in the field of wellness to help people shift the underlying root causes of their illness, which tends to be emotion, trapped emotion, energy that's no longer in motion. And I'm so excited to be able to be a part of your podcast here.
Well, thank you. We're happy to have you here. So we were talking a little bit earlier, and you have a four-pillar system as we do. So with our Giant Builders, we're spiritual, health, family, and business. What are your pillars?
Well, I'm actually in a movie that comes out later this fall called The Pillars of Power. And it's really about how you manifest greatness, like how do you live your best life? And it's actually with the cast, the original, most of the original cast actually of The Secret, like Dr. Joe Vitale and John Asseroff and Marie Diamond and all these incredible people that really started to talk about manifestation for the first time publicly. How do you really live the life you want? So the pillars of power are centered around your spiritual well-being, your health, right? Your physical well-being, your wealth, and mental wellness are some of the key pillars that we're going to talk about in the movie. And fortunately for me, soul intelligence touches on all of those things because not only do I do this energy work in the world, but I'm also the chief growth officer for a nutraceutical company which sells healthy like vitamins, nutritional supplements, natural food products for people to heal naturally. So I work with in the field of functional medicine on a daily basis. So I still got my business hat on.
Oh, great. And you also have an author hat. So can you show us your book and talk a little bit more about that?
Oh my gosh, I would love to. So, yeah, my book is called Healing Through Soul Intelligence. Maybe I should go this way. It might be easier to see. And it just came out in October. It is an LA Tribune bestseller, which I'm absolutely thrilled about. And recently, I just received an award from Best Holistic Life magazine, calling it 2025's Book of the Year. So I was like, what? That's so exciting. So hopefully people consider that to be a must read. I think it's a must read, but it really talks about what my method is. What is soul intelligence, which I think we'll get into a little bit in this episode, but also it gives you like journal prompts and exercises to do so that you can actually make that connection in the book. And it's available on my website, soulintelligencemethod.com, but it's also available on Amazon. I recorded it for Audible. It's available in Barnes and Noble, so it's out there, and I'm like absolutely thrilled with the response it's received.
All right. Well, then tell us a little bit more. What is soul intelligence?
Well, I started it out, I guess the best way for me to tell you how I kind of developed the method and what all happened to me is kind of a cool story. March 12th of 2020, when the world went nuts, right? I was in my last corporate turnaround. Now, I didn't realize it at the time. That's what I spent most of my career doing, helping companies, figure out what people, processes, technology needed to move, flow, and shift so the business could either grow, sell, whatever the business outcomes and objectives were. And so I was in what turned out to be my last corporate turnaround. And we had just prepared a board deck, right? Because we had a board meeting on Monday. This March 12th was a Thursday. You'll understand why I'll never forget this day in my whole entire life. And I was with my husband, who was undergoing a biopsy at the time. So I'm at the doctor's office and I get this phone call. I had just received a performance bonus. We were on year one of a planned 3-year turnaround. We're starting to make the turn. And I got a call from the head of HR letting me know my services were no longer needed. I'm like, what? I go, what are you talking about? He said, well, the CEO wants to go in a different direction. I go, what? Backwards? What are you talking about? Like, I'm in shock, right? I have never been fired, praise God, in my whole entire career until this moment. And we were doing well. So I texted my boss, who was the COO at the time, and I said, hey, I just got fired. He goes, me too. I'm like, what? So essentially, what happened was the CEO took our board deck, saw that we had said, had we been able to hire the people we needed in the fourth quarter to be able to convert all of the marketing leads that were coming in the first quarter, not only would we have met our objectives, we would have exceeded it. But the CEO himself is the one that said, no, I want to hold the line on expenses through the end of the year. We're not hiring anyone. So he took our board deck, fired me and my boss, walked into the boardroom and told them uh, they didn't hire enough people, so I fired them. And then he went on a hiring spree. Wow. Oh my goodness,
Oh
right?
my, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Well, karma does have a way of working things out. He ran his company into the ground and it no longer exists. So he undid everything that we did and consequently reaped what he sowed. So that happened there. So what does that have to do with soul intelligence? So, okay, I'm now plucked out of corporate America. The divine has said, you're done. That's it. You're not doing that again. And I had a good, 9 months to really figure out what do I want to do because the world went crazy. It's not like I could just, I went through that initial panic of, oh my gosh, I'm the breadwinner. I have a corporate job. I got to get another one, all that nuts. And then I finally went, okay, wait a minute. I had a really good friend say to me, why don't you think about doing something you really want to do as opposed to feeling like you have to do something? And so I was fortunate enough to get an exit package because technically wrongful termination, So um, that gave me the time to go within, to spend time in meditation and prayer. And I remember I had this really powerful meditation. I had tears streaming down my face, and I heard, you can't go back. You can't go back into corporate America. It's time to bring soul intelligence forward. And I went, oh. And so then I started to get, these divine downloads and develop the soul intelligence method, the system, which is a book of charts and a pendulum that I use to discern information that I really believe comes through me to provide that to people. And it's a whole book of healing charts. It's everything from what's going on in the physical body to the mental body, the emotional body, the spiritual body. It covers lots of different areas. And so it gave me time to develop the method. So then I decided to start doing coaching, like let me work my network. So I did executive coaching, leadership coaching, helping senior people get to executive levels, executives refine their skills. And I would always do a one-on-one in the beginning, one in the middle, and one at the end. And so the first one in the beginning was a great intro. The one in the middle was checking how the methods I was teaching them were working in their departments and how they were doing. And then the last one, I would always give them a choice. I would say, okay, we can either do a traditional coaching session and talk about what life looks like after this, leadership program's over. I said, or we could actually get to the root cause of your problems, why you're in this and why this is affecting your like your relationship with your spouse or with your kids and what's going on in every aspect of your life. Do you want to take a risk walk with me and have a soul intelligence session? And every single person chose the soul intelligence session. So it was definitely ordained that I bring this method forth in the world and to try and continue to help people, shift no matter what aspect of their life. So that's essentially how I got started doing the soul intelligence method. And about 20 years ago, I learned a different method that used a book of charts and a pendulum, but it always felt flat, like it didn't feel connected. But I think it kind of gave me the sense of what it could be. And I would actually use that in hotel rooms, not in the boardroom, right? I'm not going to whip out a book of charts and a pendulum in the middle of a boardroom, but I am going to do the energy work because when you think about it, where two or more are gathered, there's an energetic field, right? The crux of this whole method is bioenergetics, and that science has been at least documented since the 1950s, and it's the correlation between your physical well-being and your mental and emotional well-being. Because I know you know, if you remember, way back when we were in grade school, they taught us about protons, neutrons, and electrons. That's what we are, right? We're energy. We're this electromagnetic field. Now, I can't describe how it works, but somehow I'm seeing you via this Zoom on the internet, right? It's a transfer of energy. Same thing like with music. We can't see it, but we can hear it. We feel the vibration. We hear the vibration. So Einstein even said the future of medicine is frequency. And truly, when you think about being an energetic being, it stands to reason that energy can get stuck in people, places, or things, or your physical, mental, or emotional body. So when energy is no longer in motion, right, that's when it pools and it causes dis-ease or a dysfunction or a dissonance in your frequency in your body. And so then we got to figure out, okay, so what is that? What's that stuck trauma? What is that old hurt that you're hanging on to that you thought you processed years ago? Like, oh, I'm so over that. I'm done with that. I did all the work that comes up to show itself. And so those are the types of things that I work with people on.
Can you give me an example of one of the exercises in your book?
Sure. Typically it really kind of summarizes the chapter. Um, you know, um, So one of the things that I talk about is how to maintain sort of staying in a high vibrational state, right? Because you may have heard of Dr. David Hawkins and his levels of consciousness. And if you haven't, it basically talks about how, vibrations of fear and perfectionism is actually below fear, by the way, vibrate very low, right? You yell at a plant, it's going to shrivel. Okay, we've seen those experiments. But if you love on the plant, it's going to, expand and grow. And so emotions like love and peace and joy vibrate much higher. So how do you maintain a high vibration? And there's lots of different ways to do it. So I give a number of different tips on how to do it. I mean, being out in nature is a very easy one, right? To just get bliss and zen, whether it's the mountains for you or the beach or just, I'm fortunate enough to live on a golf course and wake up and see the birds and just enjoy that wildlife. And that really kind of gets me into my zen space. Um, but then I ask you to really look at what are you putting into your body, mentally, emotionally, physically. So taking an inventory of who are the people that are around you. Are they elevating you, inspiring you, motivating you, encouraging you? Or are they really trying to pull you back and hold you back and pull you down? Um, so one of the journal prompts is your inner circle one that elevates you, supports you, and inspires you to be the best version of yourself? And if yes, journal what you value about their love and support. And if no, consider why you continue to keep them close. What negative imprint or self-limiting belief are they reinforcing for you? Right? Because sometimes we keep toxic people in place because they make us feel like we're not good enough and we haven't worked through that self-limiting belief, right? Or whatever it is. So there's different things and activities like that in there, and they're short, and it's just a couple of things because I'm a crazy busy lady, and so I know I don't have a whole lot of time, but I want you to at least have like a reflection at the end of the chapter, whether you journal it out or whether you just visualize it out, that you're at least able to kind of tap into that soul intelligence. So when I explain it, right, everybody gets IQ, right? We know intelligence, what that is. That's that intellect, that idea, that spark, right? Everything starts internally. Every thought, right, is the spark in the electromagnetic field. Then the next level is emotional intelligence, right? That started to become popular 80s, 90s, finally in corporate America, they understand how you say what you say is almost more important than what you're saying, right? But it's the emotion that actually collapses the particle wave in the electromagnetic field and magnetizes things to you. Emotions are incredibly powerful. I thinking we grew up at a similar time in life, Lois, where, we were told you can't show emotion, right?
Mm.
You're like not allowed to be who you are. You have to stuff that down. So I think I took on a lot of male qualities because I worked in corporate America, and I actually took on male language, mannerisms. I, always felt like I had to work harder than the men just to make the same money. I hit the glass ceiling. Like really lived it and grew up during that time. So much so that I had to go to the doctor and I got an abnormal pap smear. And I said to her, I go, oh, and she goes, well, we'll do an in-office biopsy, which they did. And then they said, hey, too many of the cells came back abnormal. We need to do a conical biopsy, which means I had to go to the hospital and have my cervix cut, which was a very scary proposition. So at that time, I was like, okay, something's going on. I called every spiritual person I knew, every healer, every doctor, everyone I could think of. And the first lady said to me, well, you're not embracing your divine feminine and you've stuffed all of that down onto your cervix. I go, what the heck does that mean? And not embracing my divine, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to be like, you know, dance more, grow my hair long, wear flowy dress? What does that mean? And I finally figured out what it meant. It meant I had been just thinking of myself as a woman as weak, right? And no, you're not allowed to be emotional. You shouldn't be. And I was stuffing all my emotions. And if you think about womanhood, the seat of womanhood is the cervix, right? That's where we birth, life into the world. That's where we birth businesses. Like that's the whole area. And because I had not embraced it, I had stuffed it for so long. My cells were like, no, we can't have this anymore. And they went nuts. So I went to several different healers. I did like energetic acupuncture. I started to read about powerful women in history, like goddesses, the Egyptian goddess Sekhmet, who has like crazy hair like me, like the lioness goddess, Kali, Ma, she's like super powerful, and Joan of Arc, like all these incredible female leaders. And I went, heck yeah, we're strong. I'm going to embrace being a woman and that I can be this powerful force as a woman. I don't have to do it as a man. And so between the time that I got the in-office biopsy and the time I had to get the conical done, I had another girlfriend healer who said to me, hey, by the time you go get the biopsy done in the hospital, it's going to be gone. And I went, okay, I'm going to embody that. It's gone. It's already gone. It's not even here. And I will never forget the look of my OBGYN when she came in and she said, it's gone. We must have cut it all out. I'm like, yeah, we must have. So was it the physical? Was it the energetic? Who cares? It's gone. And I didn't have to do anymore, right? I think it's a combination of all things. So for me, when I talk about soul intelligence, I really have lived it and embodied it. So soul intelligence is really tapping into that inner knowing and trusting that inner wisdom. And when you are in alignment with your mission, your vision, your values, and your purpose, you are lit up from the inside out and there's nothing you can't accomplish. And so when I would talk to leaders of companies, I would say, wouldn't you want your whole staff like that? Do you imagine if your whole company was operating like that? And so they were willing and open to me bringing this method in. And I'm proud to say all the impact companies I've worked with are thriving. My book is full of stories like what I just shared, but specifically healthcare providers. So when you go to the doctor, they're always focused on helping other people, right? And so they're often last on the list in terms of taking care of themselves. So I come in and I help heal the healers. So there's a lot of those stories in there too, in addition to any of their patients that I've worked with.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. I love those stories. So, what would a first meeting look like with you?
Well, that's really cool. I think that's the coolest part of the method, right? Because I work with doctors all the time and they're like, patients are so non-compliant. And I go, my patients are not, they are easily compliant because the best thing is all you gotta do is show up. Um, and I developed this method right during COVID. So I did everything via Zoom. And so, people are like, you don't have to be in person to do this. I go, no, energy travels. Energy, I can tap in no matter where I am. And so basically what I do is I set up what I call a sacred space, right? So I want to just make sure that I'm in connection with the divine of all that is. I'm in connection with any of the unseen beings who might help you, who might help me, whether you call upon them as angels or guides or anybody that you believe in that's in another dimension or time or space. And I then say a prayer. We get into a more comfortable state, relaxed state, and all you have to do is receive. The divine does the work through me, and it's very cool and powerful. And I do record the sessions so that you can just receive. You don't have to be taking notes or, focused on anything else. And then you can always, ask me questions like during the session or after. But typically, I will measure where you are in the beginning of a session, and then I will measure where you are at the end of the session. And everybody always moves up the scale, right? But it's really fascinating to see how people react. And this is kind of like an energetic massage because people are like, well, how often do I do this? I go, well, you kind of pick up stuff every day. You're around toxic people, you're around crazy situations. It doesn't mean you have to do it every day, but kind of like you would do a massage. A physical massage moves energy out of the physical body. And this actually moves energy from your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual body, depending on where you're holding it. And you don't necessarily have to be physically not feeling great, but typically it's more emotional, right? Hippocrates actually said, all disease begins in the gut. And if we think about the gut or the stomach, right, the stomach has two functions in the physical. One is to hold food, and the other is to process food. It is also where we hold emotions and process emotions or not, which is why so much of our physical dysfunction starts in the stomach. If you think about it, you're like, oh, it's like you got punched in the gut, something bad happens, or you feel it right away, right? Or you get really nervous and then everything's running through your GI tract, right? So, so that's where it starts. And then if we don't address it, it goes other places typically. But the third chakra, which is like the third energy center, is your solar plexus. And when you think about what that represents in your stomach, it's your self-esteem, it's how you see yourself in the world, it's your self-confidence. And so that's the first thing that tends to be under attack, right? So your relationship to self and your relationship to others, that's really where it all starts.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, Giant Builders, if you're enjoying this information, check out this link up here because that will be something that you might like as well. When is the movie coming out?
The movie will be out in the fall. My book is available now. If anybody's interested in having a session with me or any of my trained practitioners, they can go to soulintelligencemethod.com and you can actually schedule a session with me or one of my practitioners. And I do the first Wednesday of every month at 6 p.m. Eastern, I do a free group session. And it's typically around a theme. So the one that I pick sort of a theme like in the beginning of the year, it's like New Year, New You, right? I think February I did something on relationship with self and to others, romantic relationships, right? And so we just pick a different theme each month. Sometimes it's a theme that's come up with sessions I had been doing for the week, like, ooh, this keeps showing up for all my clients. I think this would be a good one for us to do group because as a group, right, I'm clearing for the collective. So whoever's present watching. And then individually, I can get really specific with people and dates and timelines and when stuff happens. So I'm able to go a lot deeper one-on-one. But you still get, a benefit as a group session. So that's something I try and do to just give people an opportunity to experience me. And again, if you're interested in signing up for that, if you go to the website, you can sign up for that group session and my email list. I have a lot of free resources on there as well in the Knowledge Center. And if you're really excited about what I've shared and you want to learn the method, there's information on how to take my online course that's available today.
All right. Well, we'll have all those links below so that you can easily access them. So, well, any closing thoughts?
Well, wanted to kind of talk about when you feel something in your physical body, like in particular, right? You feel an ache or a pain, you got a pain in the neck. You're like, "Oh, where did that come from? I must have slept funny." Well, there's actually a root cause as to why that happened. It's not necessarily that you slept funny. It's you're probably annoyed with someone in your life that's being that pain in your neck, right? So your physical body is really a barometer to what's stuck in your subconscious mind. And 95% of the time, our subconscious mind is running the show. Believe it or not, only 5% of our mind is conscious. That's all that strategizing, figuring, calculating, right? All that stuff that goes on up here. And when you measure, they measured the electromagnetic field around the brain, that's a 2 foot wide radius. Whereas the Heart Math Institute also measured what is the energetic field around your heart where we feel the emotions, we magnify those emotions. It's a 6 foot wide energy field. So think about how infinitely powerful your heart is and emotions are compared to those thoughts. So we have to be able to get into that subconscious mind. And I do have a tool that helps you um, use 5% of your mind to influence the 95% that's running the show. And that's called my Sacred Soul Script, which is one of those free tools. And I think you and I were talking offline, Lois, about how I'm literally living what I would call my Sacred Soul Script, having written, a best-selling book and recording my book and being at a book signing at the Grove in LA to, being in a movie. I'm like, wow, this is incredible. And then I go, this is everything I've been journaling about. This is everything that I've been embodying, right? And when you live in that frequency, that vibration, as if it's already happened with the people and the experiences you're having and the energy, the universe knows what to bring you, right? And the cool thing about your subconscious mind is it doesn't know time. So if you embody it and act as if, it really does come in a lot quicker.
That's wonderful. All right. So you know what? I want you to read that little piece that you read before we started recording. Do you
Oh,
remember?
sure.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
want you to
About
read that.
today?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, this was, I mean, I feel like it's kismet, right? While we came in, um, let's see. Okay. So this was a daily affirmation that I received today. As time passes, more gratitude continues to fill my heart for how far I've actually come. I used to pray for what I have now. I am truly blessed for where I am and where I'm going.
Thank you
And
so
that really
much.
truly is it.
Yeah, that is it. All right, Giant Builders, we'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening. This has been The Giant Builders with Lois Wyant.